Whatever you can use in technology to allow, first of all, the humans that work for you to be focused not on doing clerical tasks, but to be present with other humans, I think is really important. And then uncovering the patterns of how you can improve your business and deliver a better experience.
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we are all about making a change for the better in your business, and specifically when it comes to venues and event businesses of all types. And we, of course, do the Venue Owner Series on the show. We also talk to pros in a variety of different areas. And today we have a guest on the show. We're going to be talking about really what the future, I believe, of our industry is and how we can kind of stay ahead of the curve as venue owners, operators, and people and folks in the event industry. How do we make sure that we are on the cutting edge of what's happening from a technological standpoint, and more specifically, AI? So today, I am so thrilled to have Ken Gavranovic with me here today. Thank you so much for spending time with us on the podcast, Ken.
Jonathan, thank you so much for having me.
All right, well, let's dive right into this because, we were talking right before we pressed record here. I believe, you believe, I think we're seeing it all over the place. AI is transforming businesses, and we're going to talk kind of specifically how that's happening for venues. Just to set the stage here, so much of what a venue does and how a venue gets its business is from Google search. And you have some pretty strong feelings about how that's going to change. I'll let you kind of take it away in terms of how is AI impacting Google search and kind of what could the future look like?
Cool. Well, I would say, first of all, AI I think is going to be more impactful for people that have been there a long time than the internet, than almost any transformation. It's going to impact every single part of your job. And it's going to hit in particular small to medium-sized businesses, I think, faster and harder than many people are thinking about it. And let's talk about first search and discovery. Like, we've all spent a lot of money paying for Google ads for a long time, or we hire the SEO team and they're constantly optimizing, putting pages in there so that we show up somewhere in the Google search engine. So hopefully we're at the top and somebody else starts to compete with us. And then we're both spending all this money cramming keywords to trick an engine to put us at the top versus really focusing on the consumer, because the consumer, they want to discover great venues. They want to discover great experiences. And I think AI is going to be a big game changer. In particular, if you think about it, for those of us, you started to use Claude or ChatGPT, or maybe you've heard of Perplexity, which is an AI search engine. That's all it does. And, we can say like, hey, based upon what locals say I'm going to say Key West because I was just in Key West this weekend. What are the best romantic venues? And I would just challenge everybody in your audience, go to Claude, go to ChatGPT or Perplexity AI. You can download it, use it all for free, and go search. And there's a reason why you're starting to see Google's stock price get under a little bit of pressure, why they're rushing to fall up, and why they actually slowed down a lot of the AI release, is it's going to change the way that we discover where we want to go, who we want to be with, how we're going to do it, what features we want, even like at a wedding. All of that's going to change dramatically. And if you're not ahead of that curve, and your competitors are, it could be pretty bad place to be.
So Ken, that is, for many of us who are listening, we're probably like, oh my gosh, like I do spend thousands on Google ads. That's, I think, one of the main places between Google ads and SEO. We do want to rank for those keywords. There are a lot of pros, obviously even people that I've interviewed here on this show who specialize in SEO for the wedding industry. And primarily we've talked about how to do SEO better, but this is completely different. I mean, this is kind of like the yellow pages to Google sort of shift that's happening.
Right.
And so when it comes to perplexity and being found in AI, it's interesting. Like I was mentioning right before we got on, I actually did a tour at one of our venues and asked the couple, how did they find us? And they said, it was a search result from ChatGPT. Like they asked ChatGPT winery venues within an area and it gave 10 different options. And they said they put each of the options on the list and they showed up. And so that's a direct corollary between, AI, using AI as search to a client showing up on your doorstep and having the opportunity to sell them. And especially for something like a venue, which is high ticket, this is a $6,000 to $10,000 to $20,000 sale. We were actually just talking about you got married at Ohika Castle, which is an insane. Yeah, I was going to say. So this is serious money we're talking about. So when it comes, you said Perplexity, you mentioned a couple of tools that people may not be familiar with. So there's Perplexity. Could you go through those?
Well, first of all, I will say, don't be scared. Because again, I've got lots of friends and I've been involved in small businesses. And even though I've done medium and enterprise and tech and all that stuff, and I was one of the original hosting companies. So I was the largest SMB web hosting company when in my 20s. I took a company public. So what I would say, this change, be aware of, but don't be afraid of. It's not going to be another thing you have to spend a ton of money, but you do need to be aware of how these tools work. So what I would say is just maybe I'll do a small primer on AI and generative AI, and I'll try to do it just really kind of layman's terms. So AI has been around for a long time. And what AI is really good is taking a bunch of unstructured data and making decisions. So, if I fast forward or go back maybe 7 years ago, I had a company, the public company that when you go to Disneyland, and if you notice how your Disneyland app works most of the time now, whereas before sometimes apps used to be inconsistent, that's because all of the data was taken, put in AI, and systems alert engineers if there's an anomaly, something goes wrong, and now we fix it before you know about it. So that was kind of the beginning. And if you think about what AI, what it is basically they scan kind of all of human knowledge effectively, right? They put it in a big database, and it makes a series of best next choices, kind of like how our brain works to some extent. And so it bases all of those things and it makes these things. And now you can see where people can answer tests and do all this really stuff because it's mimicking parts of the way how our brain works, which is, hey, I'm looking for the best wedding venue. Well, if I was looking for the best wedding venue, what would I want? I would probably want to see, well, who else has been in there and that location, and what do other people say, and all those kind of things. And it just makes that really, really fast. So to answer your specific question, if you're out there and you haven't used anything, go check out, download for free. You don't have to pay anything. ChatGPT would be one choice. Claude.ai would be another choice. And again, you could do it for free, so you're not spending it. Or Perplexity.ai. Those are all free. I would say ChatGPT is kind of like the beginner and the beginning. Claude is really good at helping you reword things. It does a lot of things, but really great. And Perplexity is designed explicitly to use AI for search. So I'm a crazy guy. I do like anti-aging stuff. And one of the big things people are doing now, I don't know if you've heard of a hyperbaric chamber. So it's basically the same thing if you decompress, if you went diving. But there's a lot of data now that if you get in these things, it can release stem cells and stuff like that. So I was curious, and I'm thinking, all right, well, who has the money to research this? A lot of people are doing it. Well, probably people that are a lot wealthier than me. I'm okay, and so I knew that Joe Rogan did it. So I was able to go to Perplexity AI and said, what brand and model of hyperbaric chamber does Joe Rogan have? And instead of me having to go through tons of pages and listen to his 10 podcasts, it gave me 3 podcast examples where he said, this is the brand I use. And this is the exact same thing that's going to happen with weddings, right? You're going to say, I want something that's romantic on the beach, that can fit this many people. And you've got some ideas of what you want. And before you have to go look at pages that are optimized for words and optimized to compete against other people. Well, now I could just say, here's what I'm looking for. Tell me what the most people are saying most likely meets my needs. And that's a game changer.
Absolutely. So one of the incredible things that you've done, and I love a good origin story. So I'm going to ask you that in a second, but you have a company called Product Genius that really, there's a heavy focus obviously on reviews, but really using AI as a tool to iterate on your business rapidly so that you are discovering kind of those holes or whatever. But Product Genius does a lot. And so we're going to get to that here in a little bit, but could you kind of take us back? You said in your 20s, you were one of the original hosting companies. What has your professional journey been like? Kind of take us maybe from your 20s to today and what you're doing now.
I'll even go even further back just for a little bit of fun because, I'm sure a lot of people that buy venues, maybe they, especially if it's a really nice one, maybe they did some other entrepreneurial things that gave them the capital and they're like, man, I didn't like that, but let me go get this beautiful venue. So I always like to share kind of where we come from because sometimes it shapes where we go. For me, I grew up in a very dysfunctional household and, a lot of drama, a lot of financial challenges, which I didn't really understand till much, much later that was actually a superpower. And so I always say that to everybody because a lot of times you're like, oh, didn't get the best breaks. Or oftentimes if we see somebody that's successful, we think they had all the best breaks that we didn't have. I could share firsthand is I had that experience, but I took that and said, wow, I really don't like that. I want better for the family I'm going to create. I want better for the financial choices that I have. And so it was a big, big motivator. Which led me to when I was really in my 20s, I made millions for other people because I wasn't smart enough, didn't have the connections to say, wait, if it's my idea and I did everything, why shouldn't I own part of this business? So I made literally people, in Texas and New York, millions, in some cases, tens of millions of dollars. Until finally I met this guy who great guy in New York. And he's like, Ken, I'll give you 50-50. You're a smart kid. Go do this. And that was the beginning of me doing that. So I've been blessed to be in a lot of transformational times and see patterns. So back when I was in my 20s, I was in Florida and, I have a gig to my house, internet connection. Back then there's only 45 meg connection. And when I saw the internet, I'm like, wow, every single business is going to run their business on the internet. Like if you're not on it, you're going to die, which of course right now be like, of course. But back then it was like, are you sure? True life story. I remember I was in New York City when I was raising some venture capital money and there was like this big wood panels and $1 million pictures on the wall. I'm in the city. I'm like 26 and everybody that works for me is like 45. And I did my pitch and I said, the VC looked at me and goes, kid, what are you really saying? I said, bottom line, every business is going to run their business on the internet. He looked at me and he goes, kid, do you really believe your bullshit? And I'm just saying, so like, I was like, yes, I did. And that turned out, we built that into a $200 million business. I took it public. It's still around right now. And I've been blessed to be in a lot of transformational things at companies and business where I've seen something and said, this is going to have a huge impact. It's going to change the way people think and do business. And if you don't change, you're going to be in a competitive disadvantage. And so I've been doing a lot of that stuff with tech. But I really got excited is, enterprises are already doing this, big companies are already doing this, but wedding venues, restaurants, AI is coming to both discovery and then also help us automate our business. And I'm really excited about it because here's the part. A lot of people are afraid of AI. This is the data. AI is not good at original thought. All it does is grab the previous. There's a study that Harvard Business did that they said, hey, here's some executives, go build an adjacency product. They went off with AI. 80% when they came back, 80% of them had the exact same idea. So we as humans still have a lot of value, but AI is really good at taking all the things that we've learned in the past and looking through that patterns to give us answers. And that's how it gives us these amazing answers. So I've been blessed to do it. And that's where I'm really excited. And here to talk to you about like the venues and how people should start thinking about AI in a way that's practical for their business to get ahead of it, to help their business. And ultimately, I think in venues, like this is the most important day. Like I've been married for 21 years. And I think any of us that get married, we hope it's a one time, right? It's not like, oh, the next one's going to be an even better venue. So it's a really incredible experience. And so I think, whatever you can use in technology to allow, first of all, the humans that work for you to be focused not on doing clerical tasks, but to be present with other humans, I think is really important. And then uncovering the patterns of how you can improve your business and deliver a better experience.
I love that. Yeah, it's so true. We don't want, it's not like a repeat customer sort of business. We really want to make sure that we're working with the customers and the clients that are really going to love the venue that we have. And Ken, it's an interesting time that we're talking about this because I think a lot of venues, more venues than ever before, there's economic pressure on them to depending on how they bought or built their venue, it's expensive to build. It could be anywhere from $200 to $400 a square foot. We're going through a build process right now. And, just seeing everything that goes into it, it's really cost prohibitive. in some cases not to have a venue price of, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. And the fact of the matter is many people's wedding budgets haven't really increased a tremendous amount. They've stayed in the kind of the $30,000 to $50,000 range. And I'm talking mid-market. Obviously there's luxury and all that, but people, let's call it 25 to 60. How about that? Nice big wide range. But there's a lot of pressure though, because there's more venues than ever before that are opening. So there's more competition.
Agreed. If I could just hit on that for a second. So I'm an investor in a series of bowling alleys. So we have like 16 bowling alleys, and we do different types of, like not obviously not wedding, but other types of venue type things. And when we started, capital was one of our competitive advantages, right? Because capital was expensive. And so when we went through for those couple of years, let's say probably 4 or 5 years where interest rates were 1 or 2%, what that did in any kind of industry is it made capital no longer an issue. And so when you see all of these venues, I think, in other industries too, same thing we saw in the bowling alleys, a lot of bowling alleys started popping up left and right. And if you had heavy debt, now that interest rates are higher and a lot of those loans are maturing, that cost of capital. So, it's that natural capitalist thing that happens, but, that's where you like, how do I become more efficient? How do I think through navigating this, these waters, I think are really critical from a business perspective.
Yep, 100%. And it's interesting because we have an opportunity, like someone who's listening to this podcast or doing their research, constantly growing, has an opportunity to use this switch in how search is happening to be the competitive advantage, right? If you're alert and if you're aware, don't have to be scared of it, but, using it. Something that Product Genius does, and we'll get into that in just a second, but something that Product Genius heavily focuses on is you just kind of, as I'm looking through the marketing, is reviews. And I think search and reviews, like those two pieces are so fundamental to a venue's success, because oftentimes reviews and then also like Reddit, like we're skeptical as humans. We're kind of looking for, hey, what are other people's experiences with this? So could you tell me a little bit about Product Genius and specifically how Product Genius as a product or service helps capture data around reviews and how it kind of empowers the review process?
Well, I'll talk about it in a generic way. So that way, even if you didn't want to use Product Genius, you could get some value from it. Having done a lot of things for enterprises, I'm like, all right, where's the market? Same thing as like a venue. It's like, where's a business I can get in where I think AI is going to transform, but people haven't quite figured it out yet. And when you think about it, let's just go back to any retail business, is people walk into your business and they walk out of your business. If they really hated the experience, then they give you a 1-star Google review. If you pay them off, more than likely, then they give you a 5-star review, because most people don't remember to do it unless it was a really, really amazing experience. And so that whole interaction is missed. And just as importantly, a lot of times when we're going into a place, we have questions, but if somebody's not available or we don't feel like, and so I was like, if I could build something, a digital employee that could know everything about a business and could answer any question 100% accurately, it would be very valuable from the business owner to understand what questions are being asked, right? Because no one knows that, right? What questions are being asked? What are the experiences? And kind of almost, if you think about, if you had an employee, if you could capture every single interaction they had with with the customer, how value, and then took that noise, because first of all, it would look like a bunch of noise, but what AI can take all of that and find the pattern. What's the pattern? So the pattern is, on Fridays, you have a staffing problem from 11 to 12. The pattern is you hired somebody who's great and everybody loves you, hired somebody who's bad and everybody. The pattern is that particular band, whenever they were at your venue, you get off the wall positive reviews about your venue. So maybe you should build a relationship with that band, because when they play, it seems like they're creating a better experience. Now, you might know that intuitively, maybe you're observing it, but a lot of times there's a delay in that information because it's very inefficient how one human remembers to talk to another human, remembers to talk to another human, remembers to put all this noise together and actually find the pattern. And that's what AI is really great. So when we started Product Genius, it's pretty simple concept is think about it like a digital employee. you can load everything about your venue, and it's very easy. Like they could just scan your website, and if you update your website, it knows it. It knows every single thing, and you don't have to teach it what kind of questions it can answer. It just knows. It's like if you could hired somebody and said, here's everything about our business, here's how we operate, and it could do that. And then further, you could say, if they start to ask about this, then I want to ask a series of questions. I want to do a survey, but it's conversational. So someone says, that was great. I'll have to tell my friends about it. You could have it say, great. We have a special promotion if they do if you give us their email right now. Because again, you might train an employee to do that. You can do that with AI. So what's exciting is it's all the things that people are thinking that they're probably not communicating, or if they're communicating, they're doing it inefficiently. AI can grab all that. And then from the consumer experience is if I have a question, I get the immediate answer consistently, correctly every single time. So like say somebody's going to your venue and they're looking at it and they've got, hey, do you guys have 100? Well, first of all, 100, maybe that's a big wedding for you. So you could literally tell the AI, if they mention a number of people over 100, then immediately get their name and number and tell them somebody will call back, and then have the AI text your event coordinator like 3 minutes later. So you go from, hey, do you have 100 people? Yes, we have 100 people. Can I get your number? Oh, it's this. And then right after that, you've got your venue person with that person having a conversation, trying to close the deal, which that might not have got to that point if it was just they're talking to the groundskeeper or whoever it might be.
Totally. It's interesting also in terms of form fill outs and the engagement level that we're seeing. When you look at a form, it used to be that people would have this long form, and many venues still have a long form, and it's all asking for all these details. Well, in many cases, the client or the prospective client, the lead, is just looking for some basic, simple information. They don't really want to, they're not ready to take that emotional step. They're not ready to give you all their information because they know they're going to get hit with a bunch of texts, hit with a bunch of emails. So you're totally right. If it could be more conversational, and then they could lead up to getting that personal information once you have someone who's a little bit more engaged, that saves everyone time.
Yeah, it's great because as consumers, we all hate it. When we get that 15, the data is pretty clear. We're not filling out the surveys, and even the NPS surveys, like that's what a lot of people have gone down to is a net promoter score, where it's just based on blah 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 1 to 10, which the data has shown that if you get a score over 8, then they're more likely to say something positive. But even that tells you nothing about improving your business. You're totally blind, right? They had an 8. So what happened that made them have an 8? You don't know, right? And so if you could capture a conversation, then you could know, and you could train upsell events and all those different things. And it's friendly for the consumer, and it's great insights for your business.
So the platform, let's say the platform's on my website and someone goes to my website and says, hey, I have a guest count of 120, what's your prices for a Saturday? That the AI agent essentially can be trained to respond with the responses that do I have to input the responses, or is it going to read everything that's on my website?
Yeah. And this is where it's amazing what AI can do is somebody to explain to you. And by the way, we think we're the first to really do this for small to medium-sized businesses. This already exists at the enterprise level, but all you have to do is tell us what your website is, and then we grab everything. If the question can be answered with the information on your website, it will answer it. You don't have to put the questions or whatever. And you could also say, for example, maybe you've got pricing on your website, but you don't want to say it. Or maybe you don't have pricing on your website, but you want it to answer in a certain way. So you literally could say, here's my website, and then it knows everything and can answer any question about your website. And then you could say, literally in English, like if you were talking to an employee, if they mention pricing and they are over 100, then tell them that we've got special pricing. If we get their name and number, I can get it to you within 10 minutes, or we'll text it to you. If it's this pricing, then tell them it's approximately this, and then ask to get their information. So literally, if you think about how you would want to train your employee best case, you can literally put those English, it's not when we say programming, it's really, if they are unhappy, if they ask about this, then ask them these 5 questions, and it makes it all conversational. If you don't have all the information to answer their question correctly, then get their name and number and say someone will get back to them within 1 hour or whatever you might want. and it just does it. And that's where AI is a huge changer, because normally that's like you have to hire some tech guy or do that. Like you could literally just type those words.
That's incredible. That's reachable for all of us who aren't coders or who don't have any of that element. So the software, does it act as like a CRM of sorts, or is it more like a plugin that you would put in on a WordPress site or something like that?
Well, here's what I'd say. We make it like a digital employee. So you literally give it a name, you give it a personality. And so if you said, the instruction is, if they ask how much, then, ask them for their budget. It will automatically, let's say you said it was, I want a Southern Charm font friendly personality. It will automatically change your tough language into that. Or like if you wanted it, so you think about it, it's like you're literally hiring a digital employee for, the $40, $100 a month. And you could say, here's your personality, here's your name, here's your knowledge base, here's all the things. By the way, maybe you've got other pieces of paper, PDFs. Here's other details we normally hand out that I wanted to, you just click add. And then if you did 0, and you said, I want to use this, if you did it on a QR code, or if you put it on your website, without you doing any programming or configuration, it will say, hi, I'm so-and-so, a digital employee. How can I help you? And then you say, what about this? And it just answers it without you doing any program, because it knows it. Because that's where I go back to think about it. It's almost like a human. If you hired a human and you said, here's my website, memorize it. Here's these menus, memorize it. Here's this, memorize it. Here's a customer, talk to them. It can do it fine. And then you can give it additional instructions too.
The implications here are so massive. Like if the system can work. So, I mean, and I haven't played with Product Genius yet, and I'm going to take you up on your offer of going.
Yeah, I'll give you a free, and by the way, there's a free trial for everybody if you want to just play with it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you, one of the reasons why I think this is so fascinating, specifically for venues, is oftentimes we're understaffed. Like we're understaffed for the level of service we want to provide. People do have questions. They're planning the most important day of their life up to that point, right? And so they're doing all this research, and you want to give them like this high touch hospitality, but it's difficult to do it. And you might only have the budget for one employee, or maybe 2 people, or maybe it's you and you're wearing 9 different hats. So using a digital team member like this basically creates an opportunity for you to, when you're touring on site, that's a longer amount of time. If you're touring someone who's already highly engaged, who already has information and things like that, that's a better sell. You're talking to a better, more informed client who's ready to purchase from you, instead of someone who's just going to need to get some basic questions answered. And let's be realistic, most of those people aren't coming out anyway to get basic questions. They just won't come out,
Right.
Because many of these venues are far away, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I think this hits on a lot of really important pain points specifically for our industry. And that's why products like this are so exciting to me, because getting the use case. Now, you said it changes, like if you wanted Southern, kind of a Southern charm, or,
whatever personality you want. Yeah.
Yeah. So does it literally change? Like, I mean, here in Alabama, people say y'all a lot, right?
Yeah. It would literally change the word. So you could say like, use a politically correct Alabama thing, don't say this, that, or the other, but other than that, an Alabama twang, be very friendly and energetic. And then it will just interpret that, and it will change whatever instructions or words, or even the words on your website, and reframe it just as if you had hired that type of personality and filter everything through that.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Being able to have that as a resource and a tool is going to be huge. Ken, I want to go back before I have a couple more questions about Product Genius, but when it comes to AI, because we're used to Google and SEO, we kind of have this in our minds that we're looking for keywords. The keywords need to be in the title and the meta description. And like, we know some of these things if we spend any time with SEO at all. Where is this data pulling from that AI is getting it? It's like, what is AI? What are any of these tools? Perplexity,
Sure.
Claude, you mentioned them.
Yeah.
Where are they getting their data? And how do we make sure that we're feeding the right information to those AI search engines? Yeah.
So I would say they get it from every source that they can. They get it from books. They get it from your website. Many of them do look at metadata. So it's not like your metadata is lost on them. but they really look, and this is the trend, and you're hosting a podcast, and I guess the marketing term sometimes they call it dark social, but where a lot of it comes from is the conversations. When I say the conversations, it could be the Instagram one post. Had a great wedding at it was amazing. Here's the picture. Because they can see that a lot of people went to this venue and posted this amazing picture, and by the way, you can even understand pictures. Oh, it looked like this, that picture's like this, picture's like that picture. They're smiling people. So it can look at all of the clues to the video, to the content, and stuff like that. So what I would say is, I think social, and you're already doing this, right? You're encouraging people to do Google reviews. You're encouraging them to, post it on their Instagram, to talk about it. It's great if you as a venue owner can get on some local things to talk about it, talk about what makes a wedding great. Think about the things that your customers want and be in conversation. And then if you can get your customers to echo it, those are the things that really weigh heavily in a very positive way on that. And the reason so, because again, humans, like if you and I, like if I said, hey, where's a great place to go wedding? Like you're an expert. So I'm going to put a lot more value in what you said than my Google search. Oh. And so what AI really does is it captures those pieces of human connection and puts it together in a smarter way than existed before. And that's the same way it can discover what's a great product. That's the same way it could discover, how to answer a test. It's using the exact same logic, which is mimicking parts of how our brain works.
Totally. Okay, so it sounds like it's coming from a bit of everywhere. Like before, it was just kind of more specifically focused on your website data, maybe keywords, things like that. But this is more from just, you said dark social. When you meant like dark social, you're talking about comments, you're talking about...
It's the side conversations. It's the part like how most of us actually discover where we go, where we eat. Like we look at Google reviews, if it has like 3 stars, we're not going. 5 stars. So there's certain things that we look that probably we don't even give it a chance if it's not there. Yeah. But beyond that, we still as humans, what do? We ask our friends, we ask what of other people's experience. We search for other people's experience. And this automates all of that. And so when I go back to AI, I think it's very powerful because it really automates the things that really weren't great use of our minds anyways. Like that part's automated. The creative part, like that's the part that needs us. So I look at it, many of these things is that gives our employees, that gives ourselves more time to be face up, eyes on, with our customers, delivering an amazing experience versus punching on keyboard or doing random little loops just to game a system.
And it sounds like there's a huge evergreen advantage to putting correct information about your business online. And whether it's in Instagram posts, whether it's in TikTok Reels, whether it's having a Reddit account that you're engaging with people, whether it's like, regardless of what the platform is, making sure that up-to-date information is available on your website or on wherever else you're showing up, because that will be playing for you pretty well through AI. You don't have to, but spending time on that versus spending time answering a bunch of questions, just like you're saying, is a better use of time because that is going to be evergreen versus, that makes total sense.
Yeah, and you think about a lot of our SEO, if we get a real good professional, it's about leaving breadcrumbs. Well, this is like leaving breadcrumbs on steroids, right? Because it can interpret pictures. It can interpret what people's meaning is in words versus what they actually said.
Do you think,
is really powerful.
Yeah. Do you think we're a little ways off though from AI? Like, I guess what I'm asking is, I was going on ChatGPT. I have the paid version, like whatever, $20 a month, whatever it is. And I was using the latest model, and I was asking it, hey, help me create, give me some branding ideas for this fun random brand idea that I was messing around with some friends, right? And it gave me, I said, the brand is, it's called Part-Timers. And it was just kind of a fun thing we were messing around with.
Sure.
And they gave me a logo option, but they spelled it was like Part-Timers, P-A-R-T, and then separate word T-I-M, and it would be E-R-S. Timers, right? Well, they cut out the E and they put in a bunch of extra random stuff, and the visual left so much to be desired.
Yeah, it wasn't turkey.
No, it wasn't at all.
Yeah.
So how soon do you think, what's the and I know I'm asking you to be a little bit of a Nostradamus here and just trying to look into the future, but how far away are we from like really having excellent results when it comes to that and not having to constantly kind of go back and us as humans be able to pretty quickly identify, well, that's AI.
Yeah, it's just like some of the AI generated videos. You'll see someone has an extra finger. It makes mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So what I would say is I think probably in the next couple of years, you'll still see a lot of those type of things. Like, you're going to take that. It may give you some great ideas, but it's not the final work product, for like a logo or those kind of things. And again, keep in mind, it's all generative. So it's never going to be as unique as what a human is, but keep in mind, a lot of our original ideas are based upon our own experiences too, which is what it's playing into. So I would say that, the time where a video is going to be perfect or, is probably for inexpensive consumer access, probably 2-3 years off. If you spend a lot more money, there's a reason why all of the actors and actresses, went on that major outage, kind of boycott, because they were putting clauses in there that as an extra that they could scan your body and reuse it. And it's if you spend more, it's really crazy what's out there. And I think in 3 or 4 years, that will be where you can get it for $20. So like, I'll give you an example. There's a product out there called Synthesia.ai. And on this one, you could literally scan your face and like say you're doing PowerPoints or whatever, and you could put in data and it will literally build a PowerPoint and have you talking to whatever those points are. And it can do it in 20 different languages. So you have people already using that. And it also has AI people. They could talk and have a conversation and look like it looks like a real person. Whereas before you might have sent that off and had a professional actor do it. Yeah. Now it could be you in 5 seconds or that. So I think you'll see a lot more of that in the 3-year range. And then you'll really start to see as voice, like if you use ChatGPT, the voice conversation, or even with like Grok 3, it's getting to the point where it's almost conversational. You can interrupt it. It gets it. So I think you're going to see, like it answering the phones and having a full conversation. You're going to see more and more of that over the next couple of years. And I think as you do more automation, probably at the 5-year point, again, I think jobs that were, I would say even low value for a human, like when we do a job that's totally repetitive, it's like repeat step one, like that sucks our soul. So I think those jobs are going to be automated by AI in the coming years first.
Yeah, this is so cool because people are, I think when the internet came around, and obviously I was younger at that time, but and didn't really have an awareness, but like going back and looking and seeing kind of the different things, like the skepticism that you even talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
Of like, is this really going to change? And then when it did start changing, well, there are these problems with it. Well, we don't like this. Well, there's safety concerns. Well, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And then at a certain point, it's just like undeniable. And everyone, of course, you're using email, or of course you're using a CRM, or of course you're using some of these things. So being a venue owner, being a event business owner who is cognizant of what's happening and kind of tracking with it and then able to adopt pieces of it as appropriate, I think is going to be super huge. Let's kind of wrap.
Yeah, I'll say so. The tech has to be easy. So like even, I'm not pitching Product Genius, but like one of the things that we did is like, I have a friend that has 13 Marco's pizzas, and he's not there every day. So he's got people, he's got staff, he's got a lot of things, is it has to be easy. So like with Product Genius, we made it where you could literally just like click a button, order a sign, has a QR code, click one button, put your website in, it knows everything. And then literally just say personality and what's the intro? How can I help you? It does everything else. So it's super easy. And then it just emails you every week and says, here's the top patterns that I've identified where you can improve your business. And then here's what you can do. You got a staffing problem. You've got a great new hire. You've got a substandard hire. People really didn't enjoy that band. It ruined the whole, but whatever it is, it just gives you that information because that's easy. Because let's face it, venue owners, small business owners, we're really busy. We don't have time to go play with technology.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to ask about that, and we can kind of wrap up here, but for Product Genius, how does it know? You mentioned like a staffing issue. You mentioned some of these things. I understand from a user standpoint, you come in and you're maybe asking questions. So I understand it from the client perspective, getting answers around pricing and packages and things like that. But tell me from the business owner standpoint, what is this other data and how is it able to tell that we've got a staffing problem from, 12 to 2 or whatever it is.
Well, just think about it. What Product Genius does is it captures the conversations that would happen or could happen if the consumer felt there was a place to do it, right? So like they might say, I had a really great experience, but there's nobody say, they're not going to go give you a bad Google review. But if they thought you're helping, it's like our signage actually says, help this business and this owner. And that's something that we all get motivated. Like, I don't really want to go badmouth them, but if I can help this person have a better venue, it was really great. But if they could do this, it would be amazing. Well, if they make it easy, and so literally you can scan it and you could just put the words and you're not filling out a form, you're having a conversation, sharing it like you would with an individual. And then again, what's AI is great is it could take all those patterns and do it. So for example, if it might say, the waiter was slow, the waiter was slow, the waiter was slow. Well, it sees that the waiter was slow on Fridays from 1 to 3. And then it doesn't see waiter slow at the exact same location any other day other than Fridays, or, whatever it might be. So it's great, that needle in the haystack. Since it has all the data, that's where AI is really good, is to find what is that unique pattern that I'm not seeing from the data and just give it to you in English terms.
Got it. So that you could say, oh, who's on shift, between Friday afternoons. Oh, we need to make some adjustments there to figure out, because this is consistent feedback that we're receiving.
Yeah. And again, people might not say that, hey, you have a staffing problem. They just say it feels like it was slow, or it was this or whatever. And it knows that what they actually meant.
Yeah.
Put that together.
The other reason I love this is those, and if I'm hearing you correctly, those bits of feedback are not being given on a public platform, correct? They're correct. Okay. So this is brilliant, because we were actually just talking about this the other day. We have this venue in Connecticut. We're building it up. We're building this bar program. We're doing all these different things with it. And it came up the idea, like, we want to generate more reviews, right? We need more reviews. We want to get people's experience, not just the couple, right? Not just maybe the couple's family. We wanted to get all 300 guests. Like, we wanted to give them an opportunity for feedback. But there's the thought, if we put a QR code that's linked to the Google My Business profile, grandma who forgot her jacket or something, I don't know, is going to be cold, and she's going to literally roast us online in a public setting, and we're not going to have any way to,
What's funny is, like, so what would you want with that? So like what our customers are doing is they'll say, ask for the feedback.
Yeah.
And then say, if it's literally, you could put, this is the programming. If it's very positive, then say, would you mind, for maybe an incentive or whatever, giving us a 5-star Google review? And then here's the link. And then if they're not very positive, because you don't want anything but 5-star reviews, then ask X, Y, and Z, get a little bit more qualifying details, and say that someone's going to get back to you. Because if you think the best way, time doesn't help a bad experience in any business, right? Especially the venues. So then you could capture it. You've captured this negative thing. And then you could say someone's going to get back to you, and then you could have somebody get back to you and hopefully turn that into a positive experience right away. So we have people using the AI to filter the positive reviews to make sure you capture all the really great ones, but then manage, solve the ones that are, because you don't want anything but 5-star Google reviews or Yelp reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think this is so cool. We've done a number of things to kind of make it easier to leave us those positive reviews, like little QR codes that link directly to those profiles, and the incentives, and asking for it at different places, and like there's a number of ways that we've gotten creative with doing that, but still there's still a gap. So this product feels like it fits that gap pretty well.
So it still helps you get the more 5 stars, but again, you can learn a lot from what was the negative, right? Because what's funny, like, for example, let's say you got a bunch of reviews. I didn't get my coat was slow, my vote was slow. Like, here's what Product Genius would tell you. It would say, the number one, I'm making this up, but the number one thing people say is that after the party, they had problem getting their coat and jacket. We suggest, and then it will tell you, like, here's like 6 different mechanisms to improve the checkout process. Like, it'll actually give you ideas, because again, this problem's been solved.
Yeah.
Now identified the problem, and then it gives you a different set of potential solutions to that problem.
I love it. Super, super cool. Well, I can't wait to try. This has been great, Ken, just hearing about this platform that you've created, and super neat to see, an entrepreneur like you who's kind of seen the evolution of the internet, and then now kind of as AI and And the world really from a technological standpoint is changing again and iterating like how we as business owners can be prepared. So Ken, I really appreciate it. If people want to reach out and they're interested in Product Genius, we're going to have links to everything below, but if there's kind of one specific place you want to direct people to either connect with you or the platform, what would that be?
Yeah, so two things. So if you want to see Product Genius, go to productgenius.guru, Guru. And then I do things, I like to help people. I've seen all kinds of businesses. I'm involved in all kinds of businesses, Main Street businesses, technology businesses. If I could ever help anybody have a question, of course, you could find me on LinkedIn, all the social networks, but you also just go to Gavranovic.com. You can put that in the links too, and you can have contact information. And I oftentimes just help people, give them ideas of here's what's going on. So anything I could do for any of your audience, just let me know.
Amazing. Ken, thanks so much for coming on the Venue RX. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to checking out Product Genius and getting more reviews.
Sounds great. Take care, Jonathan.
Take care.
Hey there, pardon the interruption. I wanted to take a minute and share about Common Sense Events and the consulting and management services we provide. Common Sense Events has been a venue management company that professionally manages and operates venues all over the United States for the last 5 years, and we've booked hundreds and hundreds of weddings. We've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on Google ads and Facebook ads per year, and we would love to help serve you at your venue if you're considering a new model of venue management. Now, this is perfect if you own or operate a venue and you're just looking to kind of have it be more of a passive investment for you, more of a real estate play rather than an active business that you run, or if you're a real estate investor and you're looking to purchase a piece of land but don't really know how you're going to manage it. That's where our team comes in. We do everything from the marketing, the sales, the operations, and we have teams in place that we hire locally to help you with all of those things. We manage those teams, we pay for the taxes, we do everything from setting up tables and chairs all the way to the final review of the wedding. So if that sounds interesting to you, we would love to chat with you. You can reach us at venues@cseventservices.com, and you can also just reach out on the podcast. You can send us a DM on Instagram, or even just click the link in the description of this video or podcast. Thank you so much. Now back to the show.